The night air in Maple Creek carried a strange stillness, one of those quiet evenings when even the crickets seemed to hum softer, as if the world had settled into peace. Inside a small, cozy home at the end of Willow Street, a young mother named Claire Matthews tucked her 3-year-old daughter, Ella, into bed. The smell of warm cocoa lingered in the air, and the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock filled the silence. "Mommy, can you leave the light on?" Ella whispered, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Claire smiled. "Of course, my love." She bent down, kissed her daughter's forehead, and whispered, "You're safe, sweetheart." Safe. That word would echo with cruel irony just an hour later. It began with a faint creak, barely noticeable over the hum of the heater. Then another. A shadow moved across the living room window, and a gloved hand pressed against the glass. Claire stirred from the couch, frowning. She thought she'd imagined it. The second sound wasn't so subtle. A sharp crash of breaking glass split the silence. Claire bolted upright, heart pounding. "Ella," she gasped, sprinting toward her daughter's room. Before she could reach the hallway, a masked figure stepped into the light. The intruder was tall, broad-shouldered, trembling, slightly desperate, entirely dangerous. His face was hidden behind a black ski mask. "Don't move," he hissed. Claire froze, her breath caught in her chest. She wasn't thinking of herself, only of Ella, sleeping just a few doors away. "Please," she whispered, "take whatever you want, just don't hurt my daughter." The man's eyes darted wildly. "Where's the money?" he barked. "Where is it?" Claire stepped back. "There's cash in my purse. Please, just..." Before she could finish, he lunged forward, grabbing her by the arm. She fought back, scratching and kicking, her adrenaline drowning out the fear. The struggle spilled into the hallway. Her voice broke as she screamed, "Ella, run, baby, run." The next few seconds blurred, an elbow, a fall, the sickening thud of her head hitting the wooden floor. Claire's vision dimmed as the intruder scrambled away, his footsteps fading into the night. When silence finally returned, only soft sobs remained. Ella stood in the doorway, tiny and trembling, clutching her rabbit. "Mommy?" There was no answer. The police arrived within minutes, red and blue lights flashing across the quiet neighborhood. Officer Daniel Shaw, a seasoned cop in his late 30s, stepped out of his patrol car with his canine partner, Rex, a large black German shepherd with intelligent, watchful eyes. "Report says 1 injured adult, 1 child." The dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio. Daniels entered cautiously, flashlight cutting through the shattered glass. He found Claire unconscious but breathing, her head bleeding slightly. Paramedics rushed in to help her while Daniels turned toward the hallway, where a small figure stood frozen in the shadows. A little girl, barefoot, silent. "Hey there, sweetheart," Daniels said softly, kneeling. "It's okay, you're safe now." No response. Ella's wide blue eyes stared past him, unblinking. She was shaking violently, unable to speak. Daniels slowly motioned for Rex. "Come here, boy." The dog approached with quiet steps, tail low, ears forward. When Rex reached Ella, he didn't bark or move quickly. Instead, he sat down gently, his nose twitching as he sniffed the air near her. Ella's eyes flickered toward the dog, her small hands clenched her rabbit tighter. Rex tilted his head, then leaned forward and licked her hand, once, soft and reassuring. A sound escaped Ella's lips, a tiny whisper. "Doggy safe?" Daniels froze. It was the first word she'd spoken since they arrived. "That's right," he said gently. "Doggy's safe. He's here to help." Ella dropped to her knees and wrapped her tiny arms around Rex's neck. The dog stayed perfectly still, as if understanding the importance of that fragile embrace. Daniel's throat tightened. He'd seen hundreds of crime scenes, but nothing like this, nothing so heartbreakingly innocent. The next morning, sunlight broke gently through the hospital blinds. Claire lay pale but stable, her head wrapped in bandages. Machines beeped steadily beside her. Across the room, Officer Daniels sat in a plastic chair, his uniform jacket folded neatly on his lap. Rex lay curled at his feet, eyes half closed but alert, his chest rising and falling in slow rhythm. "Any word on the suspect?" Claire's voice was faint but steady. Daniels shook his head. "Not yet. We're checking security footage from nearby streets, but we'll find him. Claire's eyes welled. He didn't just want money. There was something else in his voice, something broken. Daniels hesitated. We'll figure it out, I promise. Beside the hospital bed, Ella clutched Rex's leash like it was a lifeline. The dog sat quietly beside her, his fur brushing her hand every time he moved. For the first time in hours, the little girl smiled. Days passed. The town buzzed with whispers about the Willow Street incident, but something about the case didn't sit right with Daniels. There were no fingerprints, no footprints that matched the intruder's size, just a torn piece of fabric caught on the fence, and a faint smell of motor oil near the back door. Rex sniffed it immediately, tail stiff. Daniels crouched beside him. You got something, boy? Rex barked once, sharp and certain. The trail led them to an abandoned auto shop on the outskirts of town, a place shuttered for years, now covered in ivy and dust. Inside, beneath the layers of grime, they found something unexpected, a series of photographs pinned to the wall. Victims. Not just Claire, but others, families, women, children. And in the center of it all, one image stood out, an old photo of a young officer. Daniels froze. It was him. A chill ran through his spine. Someone had been watching him. The investigation took a darker turn. Evidence surfaced linking the intruder to a string of robberies across 3 counties, all cases Daniels had worked on years earlier. The man wasn't just desperate, he was vengeful. When they finally caught him, it was Rex who brought him down. The suspect had tried to flee through the woods, but the shepherd's instincts were faster than any weapon. He lunged through the underbrush, pinning the man to the ground with a single, controlled strike, not out of rage, but duty. Daniels arrived seconds later, gun drawn. Don't move, he ordered. The man laughed bitterly. You don't even remember me, do you? Daniels frowned. Should I? 3 years ago, you put my brother away. He died in prison, and now, he spat on the ground. Now you know what it feels like to lose something. Rex growled low, a deep, thunderous warning. Daniels handcuffed the man, voice steady. You don't get to decide who deserves pain. The suspect smirked. We'll see. Weeks later, the trial began. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Claire took the stand, her voice trembling but resolute. Daniels watched from the back, his badge gleaming faintly under the lights, Rex lying quietly beside his chair. The defense tried to twist the story, painting the intruder as a man, driven by grief, but the evidence and the terror in Claire's voice told a different truth. When the judge finally struck the gavel, the sound echoed through the hall like thunder. Guilty. Claire exhaled shakily. Ella squeezed her hand. Daniels lowered his head, relief washing over him. Rex looked up, meeting his partner's eyes as if to say, we did it. After the trial, Claire approached Daniels outside the courthouse. Thank you, she said softly, for everything. If you and Rex hadn't come that night. Daniels smiled faintly. We were just doing our job. No, Claire said, you gave my daughter her voice back. Daniels looked down at Rex, whose tail wagged lazily. He's the real hero. Claire knelt and stroked the shepherd's fur. Then maybe heroes come with paws. Rex leaned into her touch, eyes soft and steady. That night, as Daniels drove home, the city lights shimmered against the windshield. Rex sat in the passenger seat, ears perked, gazing out into the distance. For once, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Daniels reached over, scratching Rex behind the ear. Good work, partner. Rex gave a quiet, contented sigh. Outside, the world kept moving, but for the people of Maple Creek, something had changed. Trust, once broken, had begun to heal. And somewhere in the stillness of that quiet town, a little girl named Ella slept soundly for the first time in months, her stuffed rabbit in one arm, and a framed photo of a black German shepherd by her bed. Because some heroes don't need medals. Some only need a heartbeat and a promise. When the courtroom emptied that afternoon, the air still seemed to hum with what had just happened. People didn't talk loudly, they whispered, as if afraid that raising their voices might break the fragile spell left behind by the little girl in yellow. Reporters huddled in corners, typing fast. trying to capture the emotion that no words could truly describe. Toddler points out attacker in court. One headline already read. Police dog helps child find her voice, said another. But for Officer Daniels and Prosecutor Linda Shaw, the moment wasn't over. It was only the beginning. Scene. Outside the courtroom. As soon as the court recessed, Linda pulled Daniels aside. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with purpose. Linda, did you hear what she said? The shiny thing. Daniels, yes, if she's right, there's something in that living room we missed. Linda exhaled sharply. Then we find it, tonight. Scene. Matthew's house, evening. By sunset, Daniels and his partner, Officer Ruiz, were back at the Matthews home. The once chaotic crime scene was quiet now, the furniture rearranged, the floor repaired, the scent of lavender still in the air. Claire met them at the door, arms crossed nervously. Claire, what's happening? Is something wrong? Daniels, not wrong. Ella mentioned something in her testimony. We just need to take another look around. Do you mind? Claire, of course not. Anything that helps. Rex padded inside first, nose twitching. The old instincts returned, steady, sweeping, precise. He began near the corner Ella described, beside the brown armchair and tea table. Sunlight spilled across the carpet, painting everything gold. Ruiz, you really think a 3-year-old remembers details that small? Daniels, smiling faintly, you'd be surprised what a child remembers, especially one who doesn't forget pain. For nearly 20 minutes, they found nothing, only dust, forgotten toy blocks, and a faint stain in the carpet. Claire watched silently from the hall. Then Rex stopped. Ears perked, nose pressed against the floorboard beside the armchair. He sniffed once, pawed gently, then looked up at Daniels expectantly. Daniels, crouching, good boy, what is it? He brushed his hand over the wood, it felt uneven. A faint metallic glint caught his eye in the crack between boards. Daniels, flashlight. Ruiz handed him one. The beam revealed something silver wedged deep beneath. Daniels pried the board loose. His fingers closed around something cold and thin, a necklace. Delicate silver with a small oval pendant. But what mattered wasn't the jewelry. It was what was tangled around it. A few strands of hair and a faint smear of dried blood. Claire gasped softly behind him. Claire, that's mine, it's my mother's necklace. I wore it that night. Daniels turned the pendant over. The clasp was broken, snapped. He met Ruiz's eyes. Daniels, get forensics on it tonight. Scene. Forensics lab, midnight. Bright lights, white gloves, the hum of machines. Dr. Morgan, the forensic specialist, worked in silence, every motion deliberate. Daniels leaned against the wall, coffee untouched, eyes fixed. Finally, near midnight, Morgan turned. Morgan, we've got something. Daniels, straightening. What? Morgan, a partial print. It's smeared, but the ridge pattern matches one of our profiles. Daniels, who? Morgan typed quickly. The system beeped. Seconds felt like hours. Match found. Troy Benson. Daniels exhaled slowly. That's it. That's the link we needed. Scene. Courtroom. The next morning. Linda Shaw entered the courthouse like a storm of quiet justice. The defense hadn't seen it coming. Linda, the victim's necklace, recovered from the crime scene last night based on the child's recollection. Fingerprint confirmed. Your client's. Defense attorney Mark Leland's face went pale. Leland, that's impossible. That area was. Linda, cutting in, missed, but the witness led us to it. Her memory was precise. Judge Cooper leaned forward. Judge, Ms. Shaw, are you entering this into evidence? Linda, yes, Your Honor, Exhibit C. A murmur swept through the room. Daniels watched from his usual corner, pride swelling in his chest. Ella's testimony hadn't just touched hearts, it had uncovered truth. Scene. That evening. Claire cried softly when she heard. Claire, I can't believe she remembered that. She was hiding under the table, and she still noticed. Daniels, kids remember the things that matter. What we think is small, to them, it's everything. Claire smiled through tears, stroking Rex's head. I don't know how I'll ever thank you. Daniels, don't thank me, thank her. She didn't give up. As the sun dipped behind the courthouse, Daniels walked Rex through the square. You did good, partner. You gave her courage. Rex's eyes glimmered with quiet understanding. Scene. The trial, the next day. The courtroom was packed, cameras ready. Reporters whispered. Judge Cooper's gavel struck once. Leland stood. Your Honor, the defense moves to strike the necklace evidence, chain of custody violation. Linda, denied. The child's statement led us there, chain of custody intact. Judge Cooper, motion denied. A ripple of gasps spread through the crowd. Daniels was called to the stand. Rex sat at his feet, calm as stone. Leland, officer, you recovered the necklace based on a toddler's statement? Daniels, yes. Leland, so your investigation was guided by a 3-year-old child? Daniels, I was guided by a child who witnessed a crime, and who turned out to be right. A low chuckle from the spectators. Judge Cooper raised her gavel. Leland pressed harder, desperate. And how can you prove the evidence wasn't planted? Daniels, the scene was sealed. No one entered. It was there from the start. We just didn't see it. Leland's confidence cracked. So we're convicting a man on the word of a frightened child and a dog handler's instinct? Linda, objection, argument, not question. Judge Cooper, sustained. The room simmered. Then came the moment no one expected. Benson, on the stand, broke. Benson, snapping, fine, I was there, but I didn't mean to hurt her. The courtroom gasped. Cameras flashed. Justice, finally, spoke for itself. Scene. Verdict day. The jury foreman stood. On the charge of aggravated assault, guilty. On burglary, guilty. On attempted murder, guilty. Claire trembled. Ella whispered. Mommy, is it over? Claire, yes, baby, it's over. Judge Cooper's voice cut through the air. Troy Benson is sentenced to 30 years in state prison. Justice may be delayed, but it is never denied. Scene. Outside the courthouse. Reporters swarmed. Daniels shielded Claire and Ella. She's not giving statements. She's going home. Claire, thank you for everything. Daniels, you and your daughter did what grown men couldn't. You faced fear and told the truth. Ella reached for him shyly. Doggy, come see me again? Daniels, smiling, I think he'd like that. Applause filled the square, not for police or prosecutors, but for a child who spoke, and the dog who listened. Epilogue. Months passed. Claire and Ella healed. Daniels and Rex visited often. Laughter returned to the house. When Rex finally retired, Daniels brought him home to Ella. Daniels, he's all yours now. Claire, tearful, you mean it? Daniels, he deserves a family, and I can't think of a better one. Rex laid his head on Ella's lap. Content, safe, home. Final montage. Claire volunteers at a victim center. Ella starts preschool, laughter echoing. Daniels teaches cadets about compassion in law enforcement. A documentary called Voices of the Innocent airs nationwide, inspiring millions. Final scene. A year later, under a warm spring sky, Daniels visits their home. Ella runs to greet him. Ella, doggy still my hero. Daniels kneels beside her, smiling. Always, kiddo, always. That night, as lights twinkled across Maple Creek, the world felt peaceful again. And somewhere, a little girl whispered her bedtime prayer beside her loyal dog. Thank you, God, for my doggy, and for the man who made the bad man go away. Rex sighed softly, curling closer. For the first time in a long while, the night felt safe.
If this tale moved you, if you felt the tension, the heartbreak, and the triumph, please support our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring more thrilling, emotional, and inspiring stories your way. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Do you believe dogs have an extraordinary sixth sense? Share your thoughts and personal stories with us. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.